A small cut on your finger takes 3 days to close cleanly when you are 30. At 65, the same cut might still be raw on day 6. That gap is not a minor inconvenience. It is your body telling you something precise about your biological age, something most people walk right past without ever reading the message. Here is what makes this genuinely interesting. The speed at which your skin heals after 60 is not controlled by one thing. It is the sum of dozens of biological processes happening simultaneously, and when those processes slow down, they tend to slow down together. Your skin is essentially a readout, a live display, and the evidence now suggests it reflects the state of your organs, your immune system, and your cellular machinery with surprising accuracy. To understand why, you have to start with what healing actually requires. Within seconds of a cut, your blood vessels constrict, platelets rush in, a clot begins to form. Then the immune system sends in its first responders, neutrophils, then macrophages, to clear debris and bacteria. That inflammatory phase has to resolve cleanly before new tissue can grow. In younger bodies, that handoff is crisp. In older bodies, it often is not. Researchers call the problem chronic low-grade inflammation, and it is one of the most studied features of biological aging. As we get older, the immune system does not fully switch off between threats. It stays slightly activated, humming along at a low level all the time. That background noise interferes with the clean inflammatory signal a wound needs to start healing properly. The first phase of repair gets muddled and everything downstream is delayed. Then there is the collagen problem. Collagen is the structural scaffold of your skin, the protein that holds a wound together long enough for new cells to grow across it. After 60, your body produces collagen more slowly, and the collagen it does produce is less organized, less elastic. Think of the difference between new rope and rope that has been in the sun for 20 years. Both are technically rope, but they do not behave the same way under tension. Underneath all of this is something even more fundamental. What is happening inside your individual cells? Every cell in your body carries a clock of sorts, structures called telomeres that sit at the ends of your chromosomes like protective caps. Each time a cell divides, those caps get slightly shorter. When they get short enough, the cell stops dividing efficiently. Skin cells need to divide quickly to fill a wound. If your cellular clocks are running down, that process stalls. Telomere length on its own does not tell the whole story. But studies over the past decade have found real correlations between wound healing speed and what scientists call biological age, a composite measure drawn from multiple markers in your blood and tissue. Your chronological age, the number on your birth certificate, turns out to be a surprisingly crude predictor. Two people who are both 68 can have biological ages that differ by 15 years or more. That gap matters enormously, and here is the encouraging part: it is not fixed. The factors that widen the gap between chronological and biological age are, in large part, the same factors that researchers have been pointing toward for years. Sleep, consistent movement, what you eat most of the time, stress that gets addressed rather than buried. None of that is new information. What is new is that wound healing speed gives you a concrete, visible way to notice whether those factors are actually working in your body. Sleep is worth dwelling on for a moment because its connection to skin repair is more direct than most people realize. Human growth hormone, one of the key chemical signals that drives tissue repair, is released primarily during deep sleep. If you are consistently getting 5 hours instead of 7 or 8, you are cutting off a significant portion of that repair signal every single night. Over years, that compounds. The skin is one of the first places the deficit shows up visibly. Movement has a surprisingly direct effect as well, and it works through 2 channels at once. First, regular moderate exercise improves circulation, which means the blood supply delivering oxygen and nutrients to a healing wound is more robust. Second, and this is the part that often surprises people, exercise appears to dampen that chronic low-grade inflammation we talked about earlier. Not immediately, but steadily over time. A body that moves consistently is a body with a quieter, more responsive immune system. Nutrition shapes the raw materials your body has available for repair. Protein is the most directly relevant. Collagen synthesis requires adequate protein intake, and research suggests that many adults over 60 eat less protein than their bodies need, partly because appetite can decrease with age and partly because the body becomes slightly less efficient at extracting and using protein from food. Zinc and vitamin C also play specific roles in the wound healing cascade, which is why deficiencies in both show up so clearly in healing speed. There is a social and psychological dimension here that is easy to dismiss, but the evidence keeps pulling it back into view. Chronic stress, the kind that comes from prolonged caregiving, isolation, financial worry, grief, measurably impairs immune function. Studies going back to the 1990s use small standardized skin wounds to compare healing rates in people under different levels of psychological stress. The wounds in the high stress group took significantly longer to close. The body does not separate emotional load from physical repair. They run on the same system. This is a useful reframe if you find yourself noticing that a cut or a bruise is taking longer to heal than it used to. It is not a cause for panic, and it is not a diagnosis, it is information. A signal worth paying attention to the same way you would pay attention to your energy level or your sleep quality. The body is always sending data. Most of us just were not taught to read the channel that runs through our skin. What the research is slowly building toward is a broader understanding of biological age as something measurable, trackable, and crucially, influenceable. Not by any single intervention, not by a supplement or a shortcut, but by the accumulation of small consistent choices over time. Healing speed is one honest reflection of that accumulation. When the habits are working, the body tends to show it. When they have slipped, the body tends to show that too. If there is one thing to carry away from all of this, it is the idea that your skin's healing speed is less like a flaw to be treated and more like a conversation your body is trying to have with you. After 60, that conversation gets more specific, more informative, and more worth listening to. The good news is that the body is a remarkably good listener in return. Give it sleep, movement, food, calm, and connection, and it tends to respond in kind at every age.